In the spring of 1939, Malcolm received a letter from his half-sister Ella, a child from his father's first marriage. She had become a successful businesswoman in Boston, Massachusetts. Ella invited Malcolm to spend the following summer with her. It was an invitation he was quick to accept. Now, in Boston, Malcolm was awestruck by everything he saw and witnessed. Ella lived in the Roxbury section of Boston, a middle-class black neighborhood. For the first time, Malcolm saw blacks living in nice homes, wearing new clothes, driving cars, and having good educations. When Malcolm returned to school in September, he began to distance himself more and more from his white teachers and classmates. The same racist remarks that he had ignored before now began to hurt and bother him. Things like making fun of black slaves were no longer okay. Malcolm eventually told Ella that he would like to live in Boston with her. Ella was granted custody of Malcolm, and in 1940, he made his arrangements to leave Michigan and move to Boston. He was 15 years old. Living with his sister in Boston, Massachusetts, Malcolm worked as a shoeshine boy, a busboy, and a waiter. Ella also set about introducing her brother to her friends and colleagues. But Malcolm was not interested in friendships with the blacks who lived in Roxbury. He thought many of Ella's friends were shallow and trying hard to be something they were not, white. They imitated white society. So, Malcolm began visiting the black ghetto of Roxbury. There, he was drawn to the neighborhood's street life. One of the first people that Malcolm met was an older teenager named Shorty Jarvis, who was also from the Lansing, Michigan area. They became instant friends. Malcolm began wearing flashy clothing and jumped into a criminal life that included gambling, prostitution, selling drugs, and burglary. In 1942, Malcolm moved to New York City's Harlem neighborhood, where he continued his unlawful lifestyle. He adapted well to the New York City street life and rose quickly in the criminal world. Malcolm began spending most of his evenings at Small's Paradise, a famous Harlem night spot and a hangout for many Harlem criminals. He hung around the bar and met many colorful individuals with names such as West Indian Archie, Sammy the Pimp, Dollar Bill, and Few Clothes. Malcolm soon received his own nickname, Detroit Red, because of his Michigan upbringing and his red hair. While working at Smalls as a waiter, Malcolm was offered another job, that of a runner for a numbers man. Malcolm became one of many people collecting tickets for the illegal lottery game run by New York mobsters. He was not only involved in the numbers business, but also sold bootleg or illegal whiskey, as well as stolen goods. In addition to being involved in all these crimes, Malcolm began to use cocaine and marijuana. By 1943, he was under surveillance by the New York City police. And it did not take long for the narcotic detectives to realize Malcolm was selling marijuana. They began to follow him. Malcolm's life became a game of cat and mouse as he moved from one cheap boarding house to another, trying to evade the police. By late 1943, the police weren't the only problem. Malcolm was also living in constant fear of Harlem's underworld mobsters. He was beaten up on at least one occasion by mobsters who were not happy with Malcolm's drug dealing and other crimes. One of his old friends, West Indian Archie, swore he would kill Malcolm. The poor guy barely escaped with his life, and only with the help of his friend Shorty, who arrived and brought him back to Boston. Back in Boston, Malcolm organized a robbery ring with Shorty. They robbed corner drugstores and liquor stores all around the Boston area. Plus, they robbed homes. But, of course, Malcolm was eventually caught by the police after leaving a stolen watch at a jewelry store to be repaired. The store recognized it and called the police right away. So, Malcolm was 20 years old when he stood before the judge and heard the verdict and sentence. He was convicted of 14 different counts of burglary and was therefore sentenced to 10 years in prison.